What's up, YouTube? Welcome back to my channel. It's your girl Diamond, and I will be dropping jewels on you. If you're new here, hit like, comment, and subscribe. And if you're a returning subscriber, welcome back, welcome back, welcome back. So, as y'all can see by the title, today I'm going to be talking about my experience as a female security guard living in NYC. If you want to know the nitty-gritty, the ups, the downs, what you might be faced with, how to become a security guard, stay tuned. Let's get right into the video. First and foremost, there are some requirements that you have to have before you even apply. We don't want to waste our time, right? First, you need to be 18 years or older. That's one. Number two, you need to have your high school diploma or your GED. 3, you need to be a U.S. citizen, or you need to have the proper documentation that supports your right to work within the state of New York. Now, after you have all of that and all your documentation is up to par, you are going to take your 8-hour pre-assignment. Now, this is a course and a prerequisite that is needed to apply for your security guard license. In this course, you will learn about the work ethics, your role as a security guard, your limitations that you can or cannot do as a security guard. Because the first thing people gonna say when you in this field, you're not a cop, you can't do this, you're not a cop. Being a security guard is very trying, and it's obstacles in every job that you do, But that pre-assignment is the way to see what you're going to be doing as a security guard before you apply. So it's good to take that course, even though it's, mandated, but it's also good to see what you're getting yourself into before you pay the fees, the money, and, waste your time. Now, once you take your pre-assignment, you are going to set up your appointment to take your fingerprints. Now, taking your fingerprints is going to be with a company usually called Identical. Now, once you take your fingerprints, they are going to give you a receipt. To take your fingerprints, it is $100 to $102, roughly give or take $1 or a few cents. Once you take your fingerprints at this place, they are going to give you a receipt. That receipt is vital to this process. Like, you need that receipt to put in your envelope with your 8-hour pre-assignment and your application. Your application can be found on the New York State Department of State website, and you can print out the security guard application as a PDF. So let's backtrack a little bit in case I move too quick. You're going to need your 8-hour pre-assignment. You're also going to need that fingerprinting receipt. You're also going to need your security guard application and a money order of $36. So I don't know if I said it before, but the pre-assignment is usually $60 to $80. The fingerprints is $100 to $102. And the money order for the application is $36. So that's all the money that you're going to need to obtain the security license. Now, once you have all of that, you're going to put it in the envelope. You're going to mail it in. Upon approval, they're going to mail you a security guard license. Yay, now you're a security guard. So once you've been hired with a company, they are going to ask that you get your 16-hour on-the-job training. Now, this course is needed within 90 days of employment. Not 90 days of becoming a security guard, 90 days of being employed. Because as I said, it's a 16-hour on-the-job training. So this is usually like a 2-day training because, 8 hours is a work day. So that's usually 2 days in service. Now, after you've been a security guard for a year, you are mandated to take an annual 8-hour in-service. It's called the 8-hour annual. As you know, that's also like an in-service. I look at it as a refresher, so you're always going to take this just to keep you on top of your game as a security guard. As years go, regulations change, rules, a lot of those things, logistics. So they like us to take this course so that we can always remain educated on the do's and the don'ts of being a security guard. Now, That is the way you become a guard, by doing it yourself. I would not be Diamond if I didn't drop some jewels for y'all. So there is a company called Grant Associates that's around New York City that help people obtain their security guard license for free. I myself used this program in 2018, and it was like a lifesaver because I was on public assistance and I was unable to pay for all of those things separate, and they literally helped me out. This program is usually for people that's on public assistance that have to go to a mandatory back to work program. Is to get people and individuals job ready. They usually refer you to places like America Works, Grant Associates. So within these companies, they help people, get their security guard license. So I'm gonna put that in the description box so you guys could have that in your back pocket. All right. Now that we got the ins and outs on how to become a security guard, we're gonna get into my journey and what I've been through. Now, I did security for 7 years straight. Now, within my 7 years of doing security, I've worked in various security settings, such as residential, shelter security, retail security, nightlife security, and private security. I've also worked for the Board of Education as a school aide, so I wouldn't say school safety, but in the school setting is basically a security guard, like a school aide. So I also worked in the educational setting. The only setting that I did not work in was a hospital setting. So I can't give y'all the rundown on the hospital setting, but I can give you the rundown on everything else. So first, residential security. We're gonna talk about the pros and the cons of each level of security. So with residential security, I could say the pros is if you're an introverted person or you like working by yourself, residential security is perfect for you. I worked for a company called Sarah Security around this time. This is when COVID just happened. The company shut down, but before that, I was working for a company called Sarah Security for like 2 years. It was very nice. They had me in a lot of nice locations, but some locations weren't so nice. We ain't gonna name the exact location, but they had me in multiple locations in the Bronx. Now, when I was doing the residential sites, I was by myself. Like a lot of jobs, you usually work in a group of like guards, and it's like a lot of employees. Residential security, you're usually by yourself. So it was cool for the most part. I was able to read. I was able to write poetry. I was able to just have a lot of alone time. That's really the pros of working residential. Now the cons is that you're by yourself. Now I told you that was a pro, and it's also a con, because now when it's time to use the ladies' room, when it's time to sometimes don't have cameras, that's why they usually need security to be a deterrent. As you know, a deterrent is something or someone that is put in place to deter people from committing, criminal activities, doing mischief. So there were times I was doing rounds in a specific location, and there used to be guys in the staircases following me up and down the steps, 15 flights of steps, and it used to just be so overwhelming because the cameras didn't work. I was alone. So that played a big part in like my psyche and like me feeling safe. Also, there was an incident when something happened, and being that I was doing a round and then I went to the ladies' room, a package was stolen and I couldn't account for it. And before I left, the package was there. So someone knowing that I wasn't at the desk, they were able to steal a package that was for the building maintenance people, and I got blamed for it, even though I had no partner on site. There were no cameras, so it evidently fell on me. So that's the only thing. When you're working with another individual, you can be like, yo, hold this post down while I go here, and y'all can rotate and switch, I've done other residential. All right, y'all. So next, we're going to get into retail security. So I have a love-and-hate relationship with retail security. First, the pros of retail security is that you get discounts. Whatever store you're working in, they usually give you discounts, like Macy's, for instance. I worked at Macy's, and just like the people that worked as far as stock and sales associates, the security guard for Macy's, we also received 20% off. So that was pretty dope. That was cool. And another pro was just being in the holiday spirit, being around people shopping, good food, you're in the mall. It's like, you know, you're like hands on. It don't even give you a chance to be tired or, you know, like sitting all day at a post. It keeps you vibey, and, you know, you get to talk to people on the walk by. People just asking you, where's the bathroom, or where's this department, so on and so forth. You know, so that was always pretty cool. Now, the cons of working in retail security is that you're standing. It's a standing post. Let's piggyback into residential again. It's a sitting post, obviously. Like, you're sitting all day at a desk, watching cameras, you know, things like that. But right back into retail, you're standing up. I myself don't like standing posts. I don't know about y'all, but I don't like standing up for an 8-hour shift. My bottom of my heels used to hurt. I didn't really like it, you know what I mean? But it was good money, kind of. That's another thing. I'm not going to talk about wages in this video because I just feel like the wages that you make being a security guard depends on the borough. It depends on the site, the company, the location. And I just don't want to get into too much of that because it varies. But for content purposes, I am. All right, you got me. At the residential job, I was making about $19. At Macy's, I was making about $21. So there we have it. Now, as far as retail security, another con would be they had me in a fragrance section. So it was just like a lot of fragrances in my nose all day. Like, I couldn't take the smell of all those fragrances all day. But then I also started realizing which perfumes was the best. So that was a pro and a con in one. Also, when you're doing retail security, you are going to be in communication with the detectives. So you have the security guards and you have the store detectives. Those are like your supervisors. So I'll give you an example. So say I have a walkie. I'm going to be on a walkie talking to the loss prevention detectives in the back that's watching the cameras, and I'm gonna be like, we have a 92 walking in the store. That would be a code for, let's say, a Hispanic woman. We'll be like, okay, I have a 92 coming in the store looking, you know, pink bag. They would zoom in on the camera of the location too. So say we're at L1, which is lower level 1, and we have a 92 coming in. I'll be like, I'm at L1 92. You know, they would know who's coming in, what location, just so that we don't, it's never good to be like, I have a black lady come in. You know, that just sounds really derogatory. So I guess that's why they get the codes and stuff. And yeah, so that's how you will be communicating with your detectives in the back, just to make sure that everything is good. Because, you know, as a security guard, you're there to make sure people don't do nothing like they're not stealing. You're working as a deterrent, you know? You're just making sure people, like 9 times out of 10, if people see you in the store, they're not going to steal. If you're right at the opening of the store, they're gonna be like, oh my God, security. But also, as a retail security guard, you're not even allowed to touch people as they run out the store. That's one of the #1 rules. The detectives can, but you can't. So the goal is to make sure you're in communication with the detective. So before those people walk out the store that's stealing, they're already on them. Like, they got one at the door, one behind them, to where it's like a sandwich. They're gonna get them right in the middle. Okay, so that's retail. And I'm trying to think of anything else in retail that I'm missing. For the most part, that's it with retail. It's basically what you see. You're there to make sure the theft is at a low, even like not happening at all. And doing retail security around the holidays is very, stressful, tedious. It's very annoying. So I would recommend doing retail security, you know, at a time where it's not so busy, like a lot of shoppers, you know, but to each his own, you know, that's the pros and the cons, you know. Now, we are going to get into one of my faves, nightlife security. So, nightlife security, that was one of the most craziest experiences and memorable experiences out of my life. Like, I learned a lot about myself as an authority figure doing nightlife security. I learned a lot, like a lot. So, I worked at a spot in Harlem called Skinny Cantinas. They're currently closed now. I just caught wind of that. An old co-worker actually called me recently. Shout out to Uncle Keith. And he told me that they shut down. I'm not surprised because that spot was literally dangerous. It was a lot going on. It was a lot. I got jumped at that spot. If y'all want a story time on how I got jumped as being a bouncer, let me know in the comments because I would give y'all the story, but the story is too much to put into this video, you know, and I don't want to scare y'all away from doing security. So now, nightlife security has a lot of pros and cons too, so I wrote some of them down. So now, with nightlife, you always get food. The spot that you work in, I'm a foodie, so the spots that I work in, I always get cool with the people in the kitchen because they sometimes just give you food for free or it's always discounted, like 50% off. But I myself will get it for free because at the end of the day, I'm taking care of the bottle girls, I'm protecting the bartenders, you know, the regular people of the club, the staffing. So it's like they used to just pay homage and show respect by giving free food. Especially in those cold days, they would give soup. I probably take like a shot before work. Around that time, I used to drink. Right now, I currently don't drink or smoke. God is good. But also, at certain locations, you would have like celebrity clientele. So that was pretty cool, seeing celebs in the spot or being around you while you're doing nightlife security. And that's very, very exciting. Like, if you're not used to seeing celebrities and things like that, like that's very exciting, like, you know. Also, you get a lot of networking experiences being a nightlife. New Year's, I did a gig. I was paid $300 because New Year's they usually pay double. The average bouncing rate is like $150 a night, and that's usually from 10 p.m. to 4 in the morning. Now, on New Year's, it was paying all guards all over like $300 because it was like high demand. Bottle prices was higher, so I guess the budget was more bigger, so they was able to pay people $300 cash. Now, as I was working on New Year's night, a famous female rapper from NYC, we not gonna say no names, but she was at the club I was working at, and her private security actually gave me a job. And I ended up doing some shifts for him at his regular jobs when he needed to go be with his celebrity clientele. So when you're doing these jobs, it's like you're shaking hands, you're rubbing elbows with other people that do your job too. So you're able to make a lot of connections in the bouncing industry. Like, it's so, you know, it's lit. I'm not gonna lie. But there was this one time at the spot Skinny Cantinas. It was smack dab in the middle of the hood. Like, if you know, you know. Look it up. But the guys there took the gate from my guards. Now, the term take the gate in the hood of Onyx is when you're bouncing and the crowd literally takes the barricades and like move them and they go to the door like let us in type, you know. And it was crazy. When I tell you, it was a night to remember. Like, some of my female guards was like crying, calling other bosses. We had guys legs shaking like they ain't know what to do. It was crazy. It was crazy. And like I said, that's how I got jumped. But I don't even want to talk about that. That gave me fake PTSD. That night, one of my co-workers got cut in the face. It was bad. It was bad. You know? And I wouldn't, you know, if you don't have tough skin, don't be a nightlife security guard. You're dealing with people under the influence. You're dealing with people that's just outside with their friends. They feeling good. The ego's popping. So you gotta really have like a you need to learn, you need to know how to de-escalate, diffuse, and be on your P's and Q's to be nightlife security. And at one point, I felt like my guy guards that was working with me, like they was egging females on just to test me. Like, Diamond, I need this girl out the spot. Diamond, this girl, she's drinking too much. I'm like, what do you think people come to the spot to do? To drink. You know, we're not just gonna be kicked. Like, at one point, they was just kicking females out for fun. Like, Diamond, get her. I'm like, listen. That's when I knew security was just nightlife. I had to leave it alone, at least that location. Just think about it just make me feel like, ugh, you know, so we gonna get into that. Because you don't know who watching who, right? Okay, so that's nightlife. Now, that night, like I said, one of my homeboys, he got cut in his face, and I was literally crying. He actually left, and he hooked me up with a shelter job after all of that happened. And it came right on time because I was just about absolutely done with nightlife security. The company I was working for kept putting me in dangerous locations. I don't know if it's the face tats, but they just would not put me in the safe locations. They just had me in these spots that I just didn't feel safe at. Like, I was damn near supervising the spot at one time. They'll never admit it, but I know I was, you know. So I'm just happy that's in my past now. And that specific guard hooked me up with shelter security. We gonna get into that right now. Shelter security is also an experience, right? So as in the shelters, all right, first and foremost, when you work in a shelter, you're gonna need your fire guard license. So on top of your security guard license, you are going to need your FO2. Your FO2 is your license that makes you a fire guard. Now, a couple years ago, I believe in 2012, there was a sad incident in the shelter system where I think a kid there were a candle or an extension cord. It was a heater. It was one of those electronic heaters, and it caught fire and it killed people. They had mattresses in the hallway. It was just like a big sad incident where people died, sadly. So after that happened, New York State made certain regulations where now they would have to be fire guards put into place in the shelter system. So now if anybody works in the shelter, you need your FO2. So now to obtain your FO2, you also will go to the training center that I put in the bio, Radiant Training, and they offer these courses for like $80 to $120. And once you take that course, you would then go to 9 Metro Tech, which is located on Metro Tech in Brooklyn, and you're going to take a test. It's $25 for that. Now, once you take that test, you are going to now have your fire guard and your security guard license. So you can't work in no shelter without your FO2. So if you are a person that wants to work in shelters, make sure you get your FO2. So my experiences being in the shelter, interesting. So they had me in family shelters. I would say the family shelters is like very cool because you get to see families, you help them, you support them mentally. You know, you just make sure everybody is safe. You usually just doing back checks and, you know, checking suitcases, helping supervisors that have the F80, that's the Fire Life Safety Coordinator, and, you know, and you're usually helping them with intake, helping them bring the bags in, making sure, you know, these clients know what room they have to be in and things like that. If y'all want another insight on like your F80, I could do that. But for these purposes, I'm just going to talk about what I know and what I've been through, okay? Okay. So now, also in the shelter system, I worked at all men's shelters. Now, let me tell you, the all men's shelters was very different. So I'm gonna just say this: if you're gonna work in an all men's shelter, you might as well be a CO, because while you're working in these all men's shelters, you're around people that just came home from 30-year bids. You're around people that just came home from rape, murder, drugs, like all of that. And you're around these people, I'm talking about close knit, like arm to arm, leg to bed, because at nighttime you're doing bed checks with your supervisor, you're doing locker searches, and a lot of times I felt unsafe. Like, I felt really unsafe. And yes, you might see a little bit of cleavage, a little, body yaddy yaddy, but when I'm working, my uniform is up to my neck. I have a big jacket on, I have loose fitting cargo pants, ACG boots. So I dress very modest. Like, I didn't show anything. It's just like you around a whole bunch of men that's like, lusty, mad, they're in the shelter, they don't really see females like that. So we're the closest thing to female attention and, communication that some of them have gotten in years. So a lot of time that was very overwhelming. My boys didn't know, but I used to have a taser and a pocket knife on me every time I did rounds, because we also had to, like, being a fire guard in the shelter, you have to patrol every hour on the hour, like the post that you're at. So we have to go in the bathrooms, making sure nobody overdosed. That's another thing in the shelter system. They're gonna give you a training with Narcans. Narcans is a reversal nasal spray that can reverse people when they have, like, when they overdose on opiates, okay, like opiates. And we used to have to check in the bathrooms and check in their rooms. So a lot of times I'm just like, bathrooms, rooms, it's like you're in intimate settings with these people. So I would just say be a CO, because at the end of the day, you're in the same risk factors, you're around these people, and you're actually even closer to them than the CO. CO have at least, like, gates separating the two. We're just like there. So it's like, I feel like either they should pay fire guards more that's in all men's shelters, or, make it more safe. Like, that's exactly what they should do. Now, that was the all men's shelters. I worked in 2 of them, one in Briarwood, Queens, and one in Glendale, Queens. The one in Briarwood was 40 and up, so that was kind of calm. The one in Glendale, Queens, Cooper houses, that was a little bit more, a little bit more crazy, because they had like 18 and up. So it was just more YNs and more people, like, not having a lot of self-control, a lot of rowdiness. It wasn't as calm as the 50 and older shelter was, 40 and older shelter was. So yeah, being a security guard as a female in NYC was a very good experience for me to understand my power and being an authority figure. Now, one big pro about it was that I learned how strong I was. I learned the power of my voice. I learned that I could move a room, I could clear a crowd, I could diffuse, I could de-escalate. There were times I de-escalated gunfights, there were times I patted down people and I found guns on them, like, a lot of time people's livelihood were in the hands of security guards, you know what I mean? And it's a great feeling to know that you changed the world in just a little way. Like, you being there, you working at retail, I was able to lower the theft rate for the month that I worked there. Working in residential, I was able to, my dog right here, Ruby, say hi. I actually got Ruby from somebody. That's crazy. I actually got Ruby from the first residential security job that I worked in Williamsburg, through Sarah Security. One of the guys was selling dogs. He came to my post and he showed me. I'm like, oh, whatever, right? You selling dogs? I ended up really buying one from him and his wife. So if I never did security, I wouldn't have my baby right here. That's crazy. That just made me emotional. I'm surprised I didn't even bring that up when I was talking about residential security. But yeah, getting a little emotional. Oh my God. So that's one. And one of the main cons that I'm gonna end the video with some big news, is that the fact that being a security guard has kept me in my masculine energy for the last 6 years. Like, when I tell y'all, I have been tough. I have been, hey, nah, can't do this, no, move. it has literally took a sense of softness out of me. And I'm happy to say that I no longer do security. I currently just transitioned back into the medical field. The girl's a licensed CNA again, so I'm super duper happy about that. And yeah, the door is not all the way closed on security, just not basic security anymore. Just not like, you know, the tediousness of the levels of security that I just talked about. I currently have an open application with DHS with being a peace officer, and I also am about to take the civil service exam to be a court officer of the downstate area. Y'all, PSA, go sign up. The application window is still open. It ends like July 11th. They're gonna start calling people August 18th for their test dates, to schedule their test dates. You know, I'm a little all over the place at the end of this video, but yeah, I just needed y'all to know that, you know. But I've just got my CNA license again because sometimes I want to be tough, and I feel like CNA and security, it just like balances out who I am as a person, you know. I did CNA for 6 years, and then I did security for 6 years, and now I just transitioned back into CNA. So if you guys want the rundown on CNA, because I done worked in vet units, assisted living facilities, home health aid, just let your girl know. I am like a mixture of everything, you know. But you being on this channel, you guys are going to get to know me. This is one of my first informative videos, and I'm excited. I hope I did well. I'm going to edit it to the best of my abilities. If you see any mistakes, please don't judge me, and I won't judge you. And it could get ugly before it gets beautiful. But I love you guys. Thanks for watching, and it's